this progressive narrative that started with Bach and like climaxed in Beethoven and then went to Wagner, which leaves out a lot of other people, but it's something that you have to deal with when you're writing a symphony, just because like the most music there is by Germans. So when I'm writing, I sort of think about how I want to incorporate that history as well as change it or subvert it or make it my own in different ways. Also the question of a symphony. The genre of the symphony, which is a very specific genre, is in the past 50 years has like become almost vilified. Like to write a symphony now it's like antiquated. So I'm not actually writing a symphony. I don't even think I could do that at this point. I'm too young. But I'm writing a work for orchestra that has qualities of a symphony, but not exactly a symphony. Another thing that I enjoy is polystylism, which basically means taking a bunch of different sort of musical styles and combining them in different ways. I think artistically I like it. It sounds pretty cool. And yeah, I think that's basically what I was thinking about when starting to approach this piece. So as a composer, or I guess any artist, I have a lot of influences as I write various pieces or in general in my life. And what I was describing before is Luciano Berio's Sinfonia, which was written in the late 60s. And this piece explicitly deals with what I was talking about in terms of subverting and like transmuting the past and like transmogrifying it into something that's modern. So he kind of uses the past as a skeleton or a template or like kind of an underlying structure upon which his music sort of is built. And this structure he uses in one of the movements of his Sinfonia is actually a piece by Mahler, who's a famous late Romantic German composer. From his Symphony No. 2, Berio actually takes this piece and puts a lot of stuff over it. He uses this exact piece as a structure, and you'll hear the piece going through, and I'll play it in a second. And he puts a lot of other stuff on top of it, including other quotations from pieces by these composers. And there's also, in this piece, there's also a lot of, there are singers, and they speak texts by Beckett and Joyce, and as well as, I think, some graffiti that he found somewhere. He described this piece as kind of a boat ride past historical quotations, and he said, this quote is actually very interesting to me and influential, as he said that in this way these familiar objects and faces set in a new perspective, context, and light unexpectedly take on a new meaning. So he's taking these, he's mashing these old things together, and the way he's arranging them, it's like you see them in a different way. So I'm going to play a little bit of the Mahler to hear what he took, and then play his own pieces for a little while to see what he did with it. So this is the third movement of Mahler's Second Symphony. And then he basically takes that and makes it go absolutely insane. And you might be able to recognize a little bit of the, if you can hear the melodies in that piece, they're sort of weaving underneath his own piece.
Could you make it a tiny bit louder?
Yeah.
Good night.
Where now?
It's going in the background.
Keep going. Nothing more your restaurant and drink vegetable. I say
The voice actually sings.
Your academic exercise. When not even a small mountain on the horizon, a man would wonder where his kingdom ended.
So that's a little of that. And that's, yeah, it's, whoa, it's kind of insane. Alright, oh, it quit. Alright, I'll leave. Sometimes these sound files, like the lobster. Sometimes these sound files like quit PowerPoint. Alright, great. So, that's one. So basically, it's not like my piece won't sound like that, it doesn't have voices in it, but that's kind of some of the ideas going through the piece. Another thing is Bach. Bach's Brandenburg Concerto No. 3 is one of my favorite of his pieces. And the idea of, I'm not going to go into this too much, but I do want to outline a little because it's important what I'm talking about, is the form of this piece is actually providing me a very distinct model for the first movement of my piece, in that it's a concerto grosso, which basically means there's sort of an orchestra and then a group of solo instruments playing against that orchestra that alternates with the orchestra. So you have the orchestra playing fully and then this group of instruments and the orchestra playing fully again, so it alternates back and forth. There's a specific form called ritornello form, which basically means there's like one theme that's repeated throughout the piece, and then in between the repetitions of that theme there are also little episodes of other material, which is what I use for the first movement of my piece. And another thing to listen for, I'm going to play this in 1 second, is there's a lot of repetition and kind of like almost like a machine. Like this, it's Baroque music and it's from, you know, the 18th century, but if you listen to it a certain way, it almost sounds like it's just like a machine churning over and over again, which is something that does inspire me in the way that I write, at least in this piece. So this is Bach. And then you'll see Schnittke in a second sort of mangles with this kind of material. That was the first, and this is the solo, these solo strings. The orchestra again coming back. Again, a solo. Good. All right, great. So then, Schnittke, who's a 20th century composer, Russian composer, he went through a phase in his music where he was taking Baroque forms just like that and sort of making them sound really weird and really cool. Which is, and this kind of piece is something that really directly inspired me as I'm writing this piece. So he transforms a style that's kind of similar to that, and almost as if you were listening to it with these like weird modernist ears. And his music has a very, very sparse style and a very clean orchestration, which is one of the other things that inspire me. So I'm going to play 2 excerpts from his Concerto Grosso No. 1, and you'll hear the violins coming in almost like the Bach piece, and then it just gets really strange. So here. Okay, this is the second movement.